Part 23. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 221. Tao Ran originally wanted to close her eyes and rest before the queen came, but before she could lie down, another uninvited guest arrived. So annoying. This time it's wrong, Jiu, Yu Tong's pig-brained cousin. You would rather push the emperor to someone else than take advantage of me, right? Ji Rong was so aggressive that he came to ask for help. Tao Ran felt funny and angry when he saw her acting stupidly. Ji Rong originally thought that she could take the biggest advantage when the imperial concubine fell ill. She was close to the water and could naturally take the emperor to her place. Who knew that her vicious cousin actually pushed her to some concubine? Isn't it that the rich water does not flow to outsiders? Is this how she takes care of herself? Ji Rong felt that Yu Tong was just a white-eyed wolf. Unfortunately, Tao Ran felt that the real white-eyed wolf was Ji Rong. Concubine, you can help me block the concubine. What can you do for me? Don't forget, you have not yet settled the debt for hurting me. Tao Ran would not give her a good look even though she had received asylum and did not know what was good for her. But since she came to the door by herself, she might as well deal with it today. Ji Rong flicked the veil. Don't say it nice. Don't you hope to bribe the two concubines to strengthen your team to deal with the queen? To achieve your goal, you can even send your own man to someone else's bed. It's simply despicable. It's in vain that the emperor is so kind to you, but you use the emperor as a tool. You are so ignorant, rude, and reckless. Do you think you can really replace the queen? Stop dreaming. Oh, you are respectful to the queen, so why don't you go and seek refuge with the queen? Are you just trying to take advantage of me by staying here? Bah! Do you think I want to be here? You forced me to live here. If I were elsewhere, I would at least be a concubine and enjoy the title of head of the first palace. In this Yukon palace, it is forever. If you can't hold your head high, you will never be the lord of the first house. Okay. The queen will be here soon. Go and beg her yourself. If she is willing to transfer you, I won't say anything, idiot. If she wasn't in Yukon palace, the emperor probably wouldn't even give her that once a month. You know, the current emperor has nothing but self-esteem. Ji Rong had plotted against him that day, and it was all for the sake of the general's mansion that he didn't have an attack. This Ji Rong will soon learn that she will die if she is separated from her cousin. Therefore, Tao Ran just followed the trend and didn't have to do it himself. Really? Really? Ji Rong's eyes shone and he turned around and left. Tao Ran smiled softly. She has done her best to be benevolent and righteous. It was Ji Rong who wanted to leave, so it has nothing to do with her. After much thought, Queen Chen decided to go and meet the imperial concubine for a while. When the man in black appeared last night, the imperial concubine only needed to open her mouth, point in the direction or say a person's name to make use of the topic. What a great opportunity this is for the noble concubine. As long as the imperial concubine insists on killing her and takes the opportunity to frame her, the battle between them may be decided. However, the imperial concubine had been awake for a long time, but she had not poured dirty water on her until now. The more the queen thought about it, the less she understood what kind of medicine the imperial concubine was selling in her gourd. Simply, she should come in person. So, after finding out that the emperor had left Yukon Palace, the queen made a big fanfare, prepared supplements, and went to visit him in person. Like Bai Ling, she imagined a lot of difficulties she might face after arriving at Yukon Palace, but there was no such thing as the respectful and polite manner in Yukon Palace. Especially what happened to Rong Jiu. When he saw her, he knelt down and kowtowed to say goodbye, which shocked her. The queen was still confused until she was invited into the inner hall. Moreover, the imperial concubine got up from the bed to salute her. My sister is ill, please excuse me as soon as possible. The queen did not dare to torment Yu Tong. What if she was offended? Sister, sit down, Ji Xiang, and watch Ti Chaoran still managed to get up and sit down at the table. It's great that my sister can come. Sister, you have to take good care of yourself. Sister, let's not talk too much. Chaoran interrupted directly and got straight to the point. Everything I asked Bai Ling to convey was sincere. She poured 2 cups of tea with her own hands in front of the queen, and then picked up 1 cup and drank it in one gulp to show that there was nothing wrong with the tea. I believe you didn't do what happened last night. Oh, the queen looked at Yu Tong. How can I see it? If you were the mastermind, you could have killed me last night. There is no need to keep me. You and I don't have a good relationship. Aren't you trying to get yourself into a cocoon? Moreover, if something goes wrong in the harem under your jurisdiction, you are the biggest suspect. This is still asking for trouble. So I believe it's not you. Continue. The queen became interested. After much thought, there is only one possibility. Someone wants to intensify the conflict between you and me. To reap the benefits. The queen was silent. Now she thinks so too. Since there are indeed assassins, and their martial arts skills are higher than those of the imperial concubine, how could they be discovered by the imperial concubine? It could only be that they deliberately exposed themselves, deliberately injured the imperial concubine, and deliberately alerted the emperor to intensify the fight between her and the imperial concubine. Once that happens, it won't just be a palace fight. It will soon spread to North Korea and China. There has been so much turmoil among the civil servants, military generals, and powerful officials of the old clan. The queen couldn't help but take a deep breath after thinking about it. My sister and I have been dating for such a long time, and we know each other somewhat. Chaoran discovered that not only was she talented in acting, but she also seemed to be a screenwriter. So I didn't mention a word about sister from beginning to end. Even if the emperor came to ask, I didn't say anything wrong with half of my sister. Otherwise, it would be impossible for the current sister to still be sitting here. For this reason, sister should also you can see my sincerity. But I still don't quite understand why my sister came to me. Don't you think it's strange, sister? To put it bluntly, I always thought that my sister and I were the only 2 people in the harem who were a little displeasing to me. But in fact, there are still people like this who are staring at you and me. Waiting for you and me to fight. It's terrifying to think about it, and I shudder. If you want to join forces with the queen, given the previous battle, it is impossible to gain the queen's trust. So Chaoran simply borrowed the topic and used the so-called assassin as an example to create a stronger, more terrifying enemy in the dark. In fact, Chaoran was right, the emperor's demon concubine was from that root. But she couldn't tell. What's even more frightening is that we are in vain to be the highest ranking people in the harem, but we know nothing about the people who pass by. The snipe and the clam are fighting for the fisherman's profit. At this time, if we continue to fight, we will only lose. Are you willing to do so? Anyway, if we continue to fight, we will both lose. I don't. Chaoran took another bite of the pastry on the table. So even if I am seriously ill, I still have to talk to my sister. I think, even if we don't say we will join forces immediately, can we stop fighting for a while, or observe in secret, or set a trap? You have to know who is messing with us, right? As you know, I only like to use my sword and my gun openly. I don't want to be someone else's knife, and I can't accept an inexplicable death. You have a point. The queen nodded. There is another party in the dark, this is the only explanation. She wasn't willing to give in either. God knows how much she has suffered from last night to now. The feeling of being confused and waiting to be slaughtered is too uncomfortable. Chaoran raised his chin slightly and winked at Ji Xiang, who was waiting on his side. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 222. After waiting for Jixiang's response, Taoran suddenly felt happy. She prepared a meeting gift and gave it to Yerukyu and the queen immediately. At this moment, the queen was puzzled. Who could be behind the scenes? Taoran, no matter who it is, he must be very good at concealing himself, and his secret strength must be very strong. We have taken it lightly in the past. And, I feel that my sister and I may not have been provoked before. I am afraid that there will be a misunderstanding between you and me. Quite a few. The queen narrowed her eyes. It was rare for the imperial concubine to have such a low profile, and she was indeed more pleased with her now. If you think about it carefully, many times, they are indeed impulsive. In brawls, pride and hatred often prevail. The queen is not stupid. After being reminded like this, she naturally began to think, is there someone who is always adding fuel to the flames and wants to reap the benefits? Wouldn't it be ridiculous to say that the two of them fought to the death, but ended up becoming someone else's wedding dress? The two of them, who were eager to cooperate, were about to discuss further to see if there was any possibility of cooperation, when they heard a sudden bang outside the outer hall door. The sound was huge, and it was clearly only a door away. Something shattered to the ground. Taoran gasped and lowered his voice. Could it be that someone was eavesdropping? The queen had the same reaction. Bailing and Ruyi got the signal, rushed out together, and quickly opened the door. Outside the door, I saw Chiu Gairan sitting on the ground. At her feet, there were broken porcelain on the ground. The imperial concubine's maid, Ji Xiangzheng, looked pitiful and cried, "What's going on? Why is Lord Chiu so careless? How could he hit the Ganoderma lucidum soup that our empress is waiting to drink? You know how precious the soup is, how much effort did we put into it? This is a reward from the emperor." When the queen heard that Chiu Gairan was outside, she strode to the door. She narrowed her eyes again. Chiu Gairan? What is she doing sneakily outside this door? The queen, forgive me. I just came to deliver Ganoderma lucidum soup to the imperial concubine. I knew the two empresses were talking, so I waited outside the door. But just as a gust of wind blew, I felt a sore knee and fell down. Yerukyu knelt down and explained softly. It's my fault to disturb the two empresses. Such a coincidence. Can't even hold a porcelain jar? And just when he was chatting with the imperial concubine about important matters, this one threw the bowl? The queen obviously couldn't believe it. Ah! It was probably the first time that the queen looked at Chiu Gairan carefully. Then I wonder what Mr. Chiu Gui heard. Chiu Gairan hurriedly waved his hand. I didn't do that. How dare I eavesdrop? I always abide by my duty. The queen's face was dark. Stick to your duty? The place where she stood was right in front of the gate. If she really wanted to avoid it, shouldn't she retreat far away? When the queen asked, she learned that Mr. Chiu had been standing by the door for dozens of seconds and had not changed places. The queen sneered, turned around and entered the inner hall, and asked Yutong directly, "Why is Lord Chiu here?" "Here to take care of Ji," Taoran said as if he meant something. He came on his own initiative. He took the initiative to ask to take care of Ji. They both gasped together. They had talked a lot just now, and it was rare that they even exchanged some heartfelt words. But it was such a coincidence that there was someone standing outside the door, and everything looked wrong. Taoran stroked his chest. Am I being watched? Sister, go and ask, how much did she hear? Anyway, he was sick, so naturally he couldn't do anything at the moment. This task was left to the queen. In fact, without Taoran's gesture, the queen already had an idea in mind. This Chiu Gijun is too suspicious. If she is eavesdropping, then she must have something up her sleeve. Or maybe she heard something and deliberately broke the jar to ruin her cooperation plan with the imperial concubine. Haha, she is just a low-level concubine, but she is quite courageous. Thinking again about this afternoon, when her aunt brought the imperial doctor to test the imperial concubine, it was this little bitch and her cousin who were making trouble here, and even moved the emperor. No matter whether she wanted to fight with the imperial concubine or not, she was sure not on your own side. Then why should I be soft-hearted? At this moment, the queen looked at Yerukia with strange expressions, feeling that she was suspicious. The queen became angry. Come here, give Chiu nobleman 20 boards to have a long memory. Yerukia was startled. She just made a mistake and dropped something. Is that what happened? Still playing boards? That's a punishment only for slaves. Queen, my concubine is not guilty of this. Please give me a lighter sentence. I really didn't eavesdrop. I didn't eavesdrop. When did I say that I was punishing you for eavesdropping? The queen sneered. You were punished because the concubine was ill, but you committed the following crime. You broke the ginseng soup of the concubine's sister first, and the noise in front of the palace made her unable to rest. How dare you say that the crime is not that serious? I have also heard about it. It was overturned, but the 500-year-old Ganodermalucidum soup sent by the emperor had been boiled for 5 hours, and the concubine and sister were waiting to drink it. Are you waiting for someone to die? You are being disrespectful. What crime do you think you deserve? After all, Empress Chen has been in a high position for many years, so such a change is easy to come by. At this moment, Taoran was sitting by the machine by the slit window, drinking tea and watching a show. How could Yerukia be so forbearing, so careless? Naturally, Taoran signaled this matter. Yerukia felt uncomfortable because of the matter between Coral Tree and Yu concubine. He was also absent-minded when copying the scriptures, and he didn't even know the queen was coming. Afterwards, Ruyi went to find her and asked her to deliver Ganodermalucidum soup to the empress. Yerukia could only do as he was told. When they walked outside the palace, they were told that the queen was here and talking to the noble concubine in the room. She was curious at the time. The queen and the noble concubine are equally powerful, what else can they say? Do you still need to close the door? The imperial concubine has just been assassinated, and the queen is the most suspicious. With the two of them inside, will the queen take advantage of the imperial concubine's serious illness to take advantage of her? Will the noble concubine settle a score with the queen? Many thoughts flashed through Yerukia's mind, and her steps naturally became lighter outside the palace. She really wanted to hear a few words and see what was going on in the house. If the queen is not good for Yutong, she will have to invite the emperor, right? She just stood by the door. Unfortunately, she heard nothing at all. She felt a little panicked. Just then, a gust of wind blew, and then she felt pain in the back of her knee. Her hand slipped, and the Ganodermalucidum soup in the tray flew out. Naturally, Taoran let people do it. When she was talking about the key point in the room, she gave Ji Xiang a hint. Jixiang flashed by the window. After Ruyi noticed the movement of the figure outside the window, she threw the pebble out of her hand and hit Yerukia's back knee. She and Jixiang were dowries given to the noble concubine by the general's palace, so naturally they were quite capable. Both of them are good at martial arts, but they just don't usually have the chance to show it off. Since she was standing in the corridor, when she made small movements, neither the two queens in the courtyard nor one of Yerukia's maids saw her. The moment Yerukia fell down, she rushed forward and hid the pebbles by checking the Ganodermalucidum soup on the ground. Therefore, by the time Yerukia recovered, the evidence would have been gone. And because the timing of Yerukia's fall was very subtle, the queen immediately became suspicious. There are activities in the comment area, and babies who want the title of fan can reply to the post to get it. In addition, at the end of this month, there will be a book club circle activity to give back some coins. You can follow the event and some coins will be sent to you. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 223. This is the result Chaoran wants. 1. Let Yarukiu suffer a little with the queen's help. 2nd, it would be difficult for her and the emperor to hide easily. 3rd, let the queen have no doubt about the existence of third-party forces, so that she can truly cooperate with herself sooner. Quite a success. Outside, Yarukiu was shivering. This is really scary. It was natural for the queen to punish her. As for the reason, wasn't it also high-sounding? What's wrong? Queen, my concubines are wronged. 20 boards. Yarukiu was frightened. With her body and bones, even if she was 20 feet old, she would be disabled, and she would be unable to get out of bed for at least several months. How can that work? She is someone who wants to do big things. How can she be folded into a bowl of soup? Moreover, her original plan was to give birth to a son in the next 2 years, so she couldn't let the root cause of her disease get lost. Your Majesty, please show some mercy. She knelt down and kowtowed, extremely sincerely. How dare you make a noise? Come here. Slap her first. Let's see if she can shut up. Yes. Bai Ling stepped forward, and as soon as he slapped her, Yarukiu's palace maid Chiner stepped in and said, "My little master is delicate and frail and cannot withstand the beating. Queen, I am willing to take the punishment for my little master, please forgive me. Pass my little master." The queen was angry again. What? I can't speak well? Another person who dares to disobey me. What a noble Chiu, this is the slave you taught. If the master talks, what will happen to the slave? If you want to be beaten, then talk to your master. Let's get together. Come on. Let me be punished together. Chiner was slapped, still crying and begging for mercy, begging her little master to forgive her over and over again. You are stubborn and stubborn. You still dare to contradict me. Why are you still standing there in a daze? Go and get ready to slap Mr. Chiu. Yarukiu was also slapped one after another. Her self-esteem was beaten to pieces. She gritted her teeth, and the light in her eyes flickered. She really wanted to endure the humiliation and take it as an experience. But she really didn't want to bear the grievance of such a slap in the face. Even if she can rise to power in the future, today's humiliation cannot be washed away. It is a lifelong mark, a stain that will make people laugh for a lifetime. Queen Chen. He originally planned to spare her life, but now it seems that he must kill her. No, make her into a human pig and make her regret what she did today forever. In just a short time, Yarukiu, who had been slapped multiple times, had her hair disheveled, her cheeks were swollen, and she was miserable. Queen, I was wrong to concubine, please spare me. Yarukiu could only relent. I will be careful in my words and deeds from now on, I will definitely. It's too late. Empress Chen really wanted to take this noble Chiu to her palace for interrogation, but now there are many people in the imperial concubine's palace, so instead of going to all the trouble to let the people behind the scenes know that she has suspicions, it is better to cooperate with the imperial concubine and hide in the dark. Then this Chiu Gairan will consider her unlucky. It's also a warning. Hit me, the queen waved her hand. Unexpectedly, Chiner, who had just been slapped, pounced on her mistress again, saying bluntly that if she wanted to touch her mistress, it would be better to beat her to death first. The queen's expression changed again. I never expected that Lord Chiu would have such a loyal servant. What a cheap servant. Where do you think this palace is, where you can die how you want? You did it again and again. And you are disobedient to me. Where do you put me and the rules of the palace? You don't have to die. Someone, send this bitch to the clothes bureau and give her 40 boards. Beat her hard. Go down 40 big boards and keep her half dead. Then Chinar was dragged away like this. The queen once again gave the order to let Chiu Gyran take the blame. Unexpectedly, this time, a young eunuch appeared out of nowhere and knelt down to beg for a lighter sentence. The queen has been handling palace affairs for so many years, but this is the first time that she has to deal with a concubine so hard. She turned around and looked at Tao Ran. The look in their eyes means the same thing. Chiu Gyran is not simple. Knowing that the queen was already angry, those servants still rushed up to protect her one by one. There was only one possibility: she was delaying time by bringing in reinforcements. The queen's interest also grew. She also wanted to see which Buddha this noble Chiu could move. As a result, the following young eunuchs were also punished. Not only that, the queen also made a big show of dragging the person to the outside of Yukon Palace. She gave another order and spread the news that the Chiu nobleman and his servants had rebelled against the queen and the noble concubine and made a big fuss in Yukon Palace. Intentional communication is naturally fast. Not long after, everyone in the harem who had nothing to do began to gather in the direction of Yukon Palace. Especially those concubines, they are running very fast now. When they heard that the queen and the concubine were facing each other, they had a premonition that there would be a good show, but no, the show was coming. However, being able to offend both the queen and the noble concubine at the same time is such a great skill for Chiu Gi-jun. And when two slaves were dismissed one after another, and when it was Yeruki's turn to cry and beg to be dragged away to hit the board, the reinforcements finally arrived. Stop. Accompanying this powerful call to stop was the announcement from the chamberlain: the emperor has arrived. The queen and the concubine looked at each other again, each seeing the surprise in the other's eyes. Tao Ran quickly stood up, dragging her frail body like a willow to the wind, and moved to the entrance of the palace with help. I didn't expect that. She sighed quietly. Naturally she wanted to tell the queen. The queen was also gasping for air. Yeah, who would have thought? Such an inconspicuous little nobleman with a low status, a poor family background, and no extraordinary qualities from head to toe, was working for the emperor. Who doesn't know that the emperor has already gone to the palace of concubine Yu? Which concubine wouldn't use all her strength when faced with such an opportunity? If I remember correctly, if concubine Yu is not favored, she will definitely pester the emperor. Could it be that out of affection, concubine Yu asked the emperor to help? Impossible. The emperor is ruthless and is never someone who can be easily moved. If it wasn't for the emperor's intention, he would never come to help an inconspicuous little nobleman. In addition, Yu's concubine palace is not close to here, and it would take at least half a cup of tea to get there. However, the emperor came so quickly. Unreasonable. Look, the emperor's sullen expression, the queen's sneer, he didn't know anything but stared at her. Look again, the thin layer of sweat on his forehead, the eunuch behind him panting. They are in a hurry. In a hurry? The queen suddenly remembered something. Although Yeruki was not favored, she never seemed to lose her favor. If I remember correctly, although she did not visit her frequently, the emperor seemed to visit her palace every once in a while. Wait, is she the only one who lives in her palace? Her palace is biased, but the emperor is willing to go that far again and again? Really take it lightly. Because Chiu Gyran was too inconspicuous, she had no part in greeting her in the past. She would stay behind during occasional banquets. She never showed up when something happened, so even the queen never paid attention to her. Then I thought about the fact that when my aunt came over today, the person who came forward to invite the emperor was Chiu Gyran, which also shows her relationship with the emperor. So. The queen shuddered. So, Chiu Gyran is the silent third party who is eyeing him and the imperial concubine? And the emperor is still, very interested in her? No. There is also a possibility. Could it be that Chiu Gui and the emperor are of the same faction? Can you? Yeah. In just 2 breaths of time, the queen's mind was already spinning 1,000 times. And Yutong was also beside her, smiling bitterly. "Sister, the water in this palace is probably deeper than we thought. What my sister said is indeed possible. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss." Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 224. The emperor has tried his best to come. When he saw the one he loved being tortured to the point of agony, his heart ached so much. It was his fault that he failed to protect his lover. Those hateful bitches, those who dared to hurt him. After giving Yerukiu a comforting look, the emperor strode towards the queen. What is the queen doing? How inappropriate is it to yell and scream? The queen sneered. My husband has always been so ridiculous. In front of everyone, he attacked himself indiscriminately. Your Majesty made a mistake. It's not the concubine who is dishonorable. It's Chugiran. Seeing that there were many people watching, the emperor once again set up a loving gesture. The queen doesn't know that the concubine is sick? If you really want to humiliate others, you have to endure it. You can't disturb the concubine's rest and affect her condition. It seemed that his visit was all for the concubine. That's what the emperor said. Faced with the emperor's ridicule, the queen lost face, but she always kept in mind that she was the face and dignity representative of the great clan, and the mother of a country recognized by the late emperor, so she always argued with reason. It is for the sake of my sister that I have to quickly deal with Chugiran, who has been disturbing my sister's rest. However, Chugiran and her people are stubborn and refuse to give up. She wanted to try, the emperor said. Is this Chugijun really caring, or is it because of the relationship between using and being used? Chugiran offended the imperial concubine and sister first, contradicted and disobeyed me at the end, and allowed the slaves to do it several times. The emperor said, should I be punished? I am the master of the first palace. At this time, do you want to stand up? So many crimes. The emperor frowned. He came in a hurry after being notified by the chamberlain who stayed with Yerukiu. The waiter knew little about it and couldn't explain it clearly. Everything he heard along the way was just hearsay. But he knew Kyokiu. She was the most non-competitive and the most low-key. How could she be disobedient? Chugiran has always been loyal. Is there any misunderstanding? Your Majesty, so many of us have seen everything she and her servants say and do, right? We all misunderstood her, right? If your Majesty doesn't believe it, you can ask each of them. The emperor looked at everyone. As far as he could see, in addition to the queen's people, there were also many people from Yukon Palace, but no one stood up to say a fair word for Kyokiu. Emperor, noble Chu, what do you say? Chugiran burst into tears, but unfortunately, because the image was really not good, there was no sense of beauty at all. Hate, thank you, Mu, you, hate, thank you, you are wronged, in vain. The emperor was stunned for a moment before realizing that what his lover said was, I am not a concubine, I am unjustly accused. Because of being slapped, Yerukiu's lips bulged and her gums on both sides were swollen. When she opened her mouth, she felt so painful that she felt like fainting. She tried her best, but her speech could not be slurred. How could she defend herself like this? Debate or not, she is a joke. She heard laughter from the crowd. At this moment, she just wanted to die. She covered her face and cried even harder. The emperor was depressed and the victim didn't speak out. How could he help her get out of trouble? His eyes lit up when he glanced at Yutong. Concubine, tell me what's going on. The emperor kept winking at the concubine. If the concubine and the queen don't deal with each other, she will naturally know how to talk. Moreover, Kyokiu helped the imperial concubine today, so there was no way she could harm Kyokiu. Taoran held the door open, his face was pale, his eyes were dull, and his mental state was very bad. He seemed to have completely failed to understand the emperor's hopeful eyes, Sister Chu, she threw my 500-year-old Ganoderma lucidum soup. It's true, I contradicted the queen. Emperor. The emperor was a little puzzled. What on earth did his Kyokyu do? How could the imperial concubine not help her? The queen was very satisfied with the imperial concubine's attitude. She was a little worried just now, fearing that Yutong would defect. Tao Ran gave the queen a just feel at ease look, and then winked at Ruyi. She was responsible for the whole thing, so naturally she couldn't ask the queen to perform a one-man show. Your Majesty, this servant has something to say. Ruyi knelt down with an aggrieved look on his face. Please forgive me for your rudeness, Your Majesty. The emperor only thought that someone wanted to speak to his Kyokyu, so he quickly agreed, but it doesn't matter. Replying to the emperor, Chiu Gairen is not here to take care of the disease at all, but to deliberately anger our empress. Although our empress and Chiu Gairen do not have close contact with each other on weekdays, they do not have any hatred. I don't know why Chiu Gairen is. Ruyi choked up and said, just let our queen suffer. What? The emperor was stunned. Everyone's eyes were focused on him, and Tao Ran lowered his head slightly just in time, biting his lips lightly. Chiu Gairen was so confused that she covered her face and shook her head. That's nonsense. Her words caused many people to cover their mouths and stifle laughter. As one wishes. As soon as the emperor and concubine Yu left Yukon Palace, Lord Chiu waved his sleeves to leave, saying that he didn't want to wait for Ji. Your young master didn't even say hello to Our Lady. Is this the case? Chiu Gairen did not deny it, which was regarded as acquiescence. At that time, for the sake of concubine Yu, our empress was always thinking about her, so she asked us to stop them. What the empress meant was that the young master left as soon as he said so, as if he was jealous of the concubine. In order to prevent the young master from becoming jealous, domineering and using the excuse of waiting for someone to be ill, but in fact the goal was the emperor's reputation, so he let the young master go first. Copy a sutra, calm down, and at least wait until dark before leaving. At this point, everyone was already talking about it. I can't tell that Yerokyo is such a thing. Just leave as soon as you say, arrogant, throw away your face whenever you want, even the imperial concubine dares to show off, but I don't know what I can rely on? Yerokyo opened her mouth, but didn't know how to finish. Of course, she was too embarrassed to say it. The conscience of heaven and earth, our empress is thinking about the little master. The empress is so kind, but who knows, the noble mistress. Ruyi's eyes turned red. What is she? The queen said quickly. She felt that our empress was deliberately making things difficult for her. She was very unhappy at the time. She kept making things difficult for us servants without telling her. When they were copying scriptures there, they were wiping their tears and cursing. Many servants in Yukon Palace saw it. Is it true? Is it true that Yerokyo wiped away tears at that time? She was wronged. But cursing was an exaggeration. The most she could do was mutter, but she couldn't prove it to herself. Ruyi asked someone to go to the side hall and bring all the scriptures copied by Chiu Gairen not long ago. This is the scripture copied by the little master. The emperor had no intention of taking it, but when he saw the queen extending her hand, he quickly grabbed it. There are several pieces of scripture, one is wrinkled, another is crooked, and another, the first half is very perfunctory, and the last part not only contains errors, but also has blurred ink. It is indeed the word Kyokyu. But this is not a big deal, right? My young master knew that our empress was seriously injured and needed scriptures to pray for blessings, but she deliberately wrote it like this, which shows her thoughts. Ruyi knelt down and twitched, feeling extremely aggrieved. At that time, the slave didn't think much about it. She just thought that since the master didn't want to copy the scriptures, he shouldn't copy it. So, the slave gave the master the Ganoderma lucidum soup that had just been cooked. He knew that the soup had been stewed since morning. Knowing that our queen is waiting to drink it, this soup is still 500 years old and a good gift from the emperor, but my mistress, she still dropped it? Ruyi knocked on the ground heavily, just like the little master did at that time. I suspect that she threw the Ganoderma lucidum soup on purpose. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 225. The emperor was irritated. He never thought that Ruyi would come out to accuse his lover. If you wish, there's no need to say anything if you're making wild speculations. I'm not speculating. The Ganoderma lucidum soup was placed in a tray. It was neither hot nor heavy. If the mistress didn't mean it, how could she have spilled it? The mistress kept saying that it was because of a gust of wind that she spilled the soup, but this statement, is that true? Little master, he's not so light that even the wind can blow him down, right? The little master lingered in front of the door for a long time, but he never sent the soup in. If he didn't have a plan, the little master was standing there. Do what? The queen glanced at her, and her female officers and father-in-law also expressed that they were all nearby at the time, and what they said was true. Chiu-Giron's fall was really unbelievable and strange. Everyone was also talking about it. Yes, although Chiu-Giron is weak, he is not invincible. How ridiculous. There was no one else around Chiu-Giron at that time, and the ground was clean. Who would believe that she didn't mean it? Chiu-Gui cried angrily, no. Ri, no. Ri. She shouted no and wanted to explain, but now who wants to listen to her unclear argument? Her denial was just drowned in everyone's voice. The emperor's head hurts. What did he do in Kyokyū? Na Ruyi, like her master, is obviously a fool and cannot make up such a lie. The emperor could only say, Noble Chiu has no grudge against the noble concubine, so it won't be a big deal. At this time the queen answered. Is that not necessarily true? I heard that the imperial concubine's sister pushed the emperor to use sister today. Maybe Chiu-Giron was unhappy, so he was jealous and resentful. Knowing that the imperial concubine's sister was waiting for this bowl of precious Ganoderma lucidum soup, if your foot slipped on purpose, it would be ruined, right? If Ruyi said this, it seemed like it was staged, so she could only say it. The current queen is extremely satisfied with the imperial concubine. After all, it's not my own play. Two smart people sang together, and the effect was immediate. The emperor had been helping Yerukiu to argue from the beginning to the end, and they had finally figured it out. Haha, I really didn't expect that. This noble Chiu is still a big fish. Although I don't know where this fish is now, I can't let it escape. If under such circumstances, they still fail when they join forces, then their years of fighting will really be in vain. At this moment, the emperor was speechless. When he and concubine Yu left, he saw Kyokyu's expression, and for a moment, he actually believed in the possibility that the queen said. Did Kyokyu get into trouble because of her jealousy? I'm so excited. Why is she so stupid? Concubine Yu's face was also ugly. My cousin did it on purpose, even the queen said so, and she was indeed right. God knows, at this moment, she is the most aggrieved. Okay. Concubine Yu wanted to cry. She was not favored in the first place, but today she finally got into the favor of the imperial concubine and invited the emperor to her place. She loved wine, food, and incense. She played the piano and sang songs, and even danced around the emperor for a while. Finally, she saw some warmth in his eyes. They sent everyone away, and as they watched, the temperature gradually increased, and as time went by, someone came outside to report that something happened. She was so angry that she almost fainted. But she never expected that the person who ruined her good fortune was actually the person closest to her. At that time, she realized that her cousin was not simple. When she left with the emperor today, she saw Yerukiu's jealous look. At that time, She was a little apologetic. She originally thought of giving her a bracelet to coax her tomorrow, but she never expected that her cousin was so vicious and resorted to such methods. Come. The imperial concubine was ill, and she was just waiting for her illness. How could she still wait for something to happen? Isn't this intentional? To take a step back, if something really happened to her, shouldn't she ask her cousin for help? She actually invited the emperor? She just didn't want to see her well, and wanted to dampen the emperor's interest, right? If she doesn't get it, is it good for her? Fortunately for her, she had the opportunity to visit her every month. As a cousin, why couldn't she see her own suffering? At that time, concubine Yu almost cried in anger. At this moment, she was reminded by the words of the queen and concubine Yu suddenly realized that her cousin was both strange and scary. While he was harming the imperial concubine, he was also ruining his own affairs. It was like killing two birds with one stone. On the other side, the queen continued to output firepower. If what Ruyi said is true, then Chiu-Gijin is the one who assassinated the imperial concubine's sister, which is even more offending. Adding up several crimes, I feel that just 20 boards are a minor offense. Yes, what does the emperor think? Yerukyu is going crazy. She broke the Ganoderma lucidum soup and copied the messy scriptures. The other party used these to attack, but she really couldn't find any evidence to disprove it. It's a pity that now she is making fun of her and making it inconvenient to argue. She is really angry to death. And she didn't know how to argue, and the emperor didn't know how to excuse her. The emperor opened his mouth, but in the end he could only say, to put it bluntly, the murder of the imperial concubine is still speculation. If there is no direct evidence, it will not be counted. The imperial concubine is still ill, and she is almost cured. With so many people watching, the queen should keep the big deal down. What Lingzi said, I'll go look for it in my warehouse, it should be hundreds of years old. How unbecoming are you all gathering here to watch the excitement? Your Majesty, even if there are many people watching, I cannot show favoritism. Since I am standing here, I must be impartial. Otherwise, why should I follow the palace rules? The queen said confidently. My dear concubine. The emperor also wanted to talk about Yutong, but was interrupted by Yutong. Your Majesty, Taoran's eyes showed disappointment. Is your Majesty coming here for my concubine, or for Lord Qiu? The emperor was stunned and quickly stepped forward. Of course it's for my beloved concubine. He was a little panicked. Was he too obvious? Since it is for my concubine, how can the emperor not make the decision for me? The emperor is helping Sister Qiu every word, but it makes the emperor seem to be excusing Sister Qiu. My beloved concubine has misunderstood. The emperor found himself facing a big problem. On the one hand, there is a plan that has been planned for many years, related to his personal self-esteem and future plans. On one side is his lover who is in danger. He could only protect one of the two. The emperor made his decision in just one breath. Qiu has done something wrong and will naturally be punished. I will definitely not show favoritism. Kyokyu will accept some injustice for the time being. For the sake of the great cause, she will understand. I will not interfere in this matter. Under Yutong's doubtful eyes, the emperor added. At that moment, God knows how cold Yerukyu was. Although he should put the great cause first, he should at least hesitate, right? Compared with the great cause, you are still dispensable, right? Sad. More sad than being wrongly accused. When the emperor saw his lover sitting on the ground, he really couldn't bear to see her. Apart from being distressed, he had to think carefully and said, Queen, the imperial concubine is ill. It is not suitable to see blood in Yukon Palace. Chiu-Gijin is also weak, so there is no need to fight. At this point, the queen was satisfied. The emperor's attitude must be to protect that person. If she persists blindly, she will only offend the emperor. In front of so many people, don't make her hold on and contradict him blindly, then she will give him face. The queen took a step forward. Your Majesty Chu, I will spare you the punishment. But today you have committed several crimes and you cannot be spared lightly. I believe that your virtue has fallen short and you should be demoted one level. What do you think, Your Majesty? The reward points activity has just been released. The rewards are super generous. As long as apprentices can participate, it's first come, first served. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 226. This time, the emperor readily agreed. Just follow the queen's wishes. It's just a level down, it doesn't matter. In terms of position, neither the emperor nor Yerukia cared. After all, the current position is just a protection. With him here, your lover will never be wronged. As long as she waits for that day safely, no matter where she is now, she will reach the sky in one step. But the emperor didn't know that the queen was waiting for his words. Then noble Chu will be demoted to a beauty. However, since Miss Chu is only a 6th grade person, there is no reason for one person to live in one palace and the main palace of the same palace. Why don't noble Chu move to Chuxia Palace? In addition, the grounding is prohibited. 3 months. Queen. The emperor objected now. Chu Ziyagong, isn't it appropriate? The grounding was fine, it didn't matter, he could see people secretly and take care of them secretly. But under that premise, Kyokia was alone in the same palace, so he could easily do tricks and occasionally steal some incense. Chuxia Palace? There are many people living there. In addition to a few disgraced ones, there should also be many low-level concubines who have not yet slept there. It was so noisy, how could he find Kyokia in the future? After 3 months of grounding, would he not see Kyokia for 3 months? Also, in the past, he could arrange some people to protect Kyokia, but once he arrived at Chuxia Palace, his people couldn't get in because of the small area. The queen raised her eyebrows, then where does your majesty think Sister Chu should be placed? The emperor was stunned. The harem is the domain of the queen and concubines. Kyokia has offended both of them. Isn't it dangerous to go to any palace? Moreover, he couldn't say this. Now that Kyokia was being targeted, it was time to keep a low profile. If he came up with another idea, wouldn't he draw the queen's attention? If he alerts the enemy and causes both the queen and the noble concubine to suspect him and Kyokia, it will be counterproductive. Kyokia's safety comes first. After the confinement is over, find an excuse and let Kyokia go back to her original place. The queen smiled, Your Majesty, I all act according to the rules of our ancestors. If you make a mistake, you will be punished. There is nothing wrong with it. I also have considerations. There are many sisters in Chuxia Palace, so there are many nuns to help. Sister Chu lives here, go in, you'll be impressed by what you hear and see, you can't go wrong. Several of Sister Chu's minions should learn from it when they contradict me and my concubines. Chuxia Palace is the most suitable. The emperor was silent. Then let's do it, the queen added. As for the murder of the imperial concubine, since there is no evidence, we will put it aside for now. But I am here to tease you. If the evidence is found in the future, this matter will have to be punished. Sister Chu, let's go back and clean up now, and move to Chuxia Palace later. The queen deliberately poked her heart and turned to everyone. Everyone has nothing to do, so let's leave. After seeing this excitement, you have to remember it for a long time. When you enter the harem, you must follow the rules in everything. Whoever behaves recklessly in the future, today autumn you have also seen the beauty's fate. Everyone saluted in unison, saying remember and remember the queen's teachings. Today, despite the pressure from the emperor, the queen still dismissed her master and two servants in one breath. She was so majestic, and who could not remember it? Where to live? After everyone dispersed, the emperor stared at the queen for a long time. I wonder why the queen is in Yukon Palace today. The imperial concubine's sister is ill, so I should come to visit. In addition, yesterday, the assassin in the palace was involved in the defense of the harem. I am in charge of the harem, so I have no shirking responsibility. When I heard that my sister was awake, I naturally came to ask what happened last night. The emperor snorted, said dryly to Yutong, concubine, please rest early, and then rolled up his sleeves and left. When passing Yerukiu, he paused. This stupid girl made him both angry and in love, but what should he do? Beauty Chiu should take this as a warning and stay calm for now. The emperor only left these words and a back view. Yerukiu's heart was filled with chills. She complained against the emperor and everyone, feeling that she was the only one in the world who felt wronged. Concubine Yu looked at her cousin on her side, and then at the emperor. Your Majesty, in my concubine's palace. There were also fine wines and delicious food, and the private conversation not long ago had not been finished yet. Take good care of Beauty Chiu. The upset emperor only cast an impatient look and strode away. Concubine Yu bit her lip, and the hand that was wiping Yerukiu's face became conscious. Yerukiu held it in for this moment and pushed her away. It's all your fault, go away. Blame me, concubine Yu's eyes widened in anger. What a rake of Zubeiji. Who should blame? Otherwise. Fool. Yerukiu was so angry that she was trembling. If it weren't for the idiot Yu Bing who had a small calculation and wanted to drag her into trouble, how could something like this happen to her? Even if she took her with her when she and the emperor left, she wouldn't be in this situation. The originally good days were so ruined. From now on, she became the target of the queen and concubines. These days, concubine Yu couldn't believe that her cousin dared to curse her in public. Stupid thing. It was in vain that I suffered such a big loss for her. You are really a dog-biting Lu Dongbin. Okay, you are smart, you can take care of yourself. Concubine Yu also angrily threw up her sleeves and left. If he went to Chuxia Palace to see her, she would be a dog. They are worse than pigs and dogs. No, I'm too angry. They had to recruit their mother into the palace and talk about it carefully. The Ye family probably forgot which family they had been clinging to all these years and whose financial support their family relied on. Without the help of Chang Xing Haofu, his family would have starved to death. Yerukiu burst into tears. What did she do wrong? Why does it feel like everyone is betrayed and separated from their relatives? She stumbled and fainted. If you faint, take it away. If you faint, you have to go to Chuxia Palace. The queen raised her chin, and one of her female officials made arrangements. When the queen returned to the inner hall, she saw Yutong calling the palace maid to make some tea to replenish energy and blood. Tao Ran poured 2 more cups of tea with his own hands. This time, the queen finally drank. I have 200-year-old ginsengs there. Let me use them later to replenish my sister's energy and blood. Thank you very much, Sister Tao Ran accepted happily. We're all sisters, you're welcome. The two chatted for a while and exchanged courtesies. Tao Ran also gave the queen a beautiful snow wolf fur. The atmosphere between the two gradually eased and they started playing chess. After falling a few pieces, the queen laughed and said, Sister, your chess style has changed drastically. It hasn't changed. It's just that my sister didn't understand her before. While talking, Bai Ling came over. Mother, the investigation is over. Bai Ling glanced at the imperial concubine. The queen signaled to her, it doesn't matter if you say it. I have checked the records of the Jingxi room. Basically, it is regular, about once a month. Most of the time, The emperor goes to see Chumairan. The emperor stays there for a long time. Every time he returns from Chumairan, his mood is very nice. Moreover, the father-in-law in the cleaning room said that every time the emperor was in the room, he would talk to Chumairan for a long time. In addition, Yu concubine said in the palace that Beauty Chu was not recommended by Marquis Chang Xing and others when she entered the palace, but that Beauty Chu happened to be a guest at Marquis Chang Xing's house in those few months, and she was chosen for some reason. The details will continue. Inquire about. Get down. The coin giving activity is ongoing, the number of places is limited, you can receive generous rewards. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 227. The two looked at each other and smiled. It is unheard of for a daughter from a down-to-earth family to be selected into the palace without anyone recommending her. And the emperor was extremely difficult to get along with. How could he have so much to communicate with such a small nobleman? I entered the palace for the first time back then, and I was very busy studying palace affairs, but I didn't notice this at all. The queen was a little annoyed. Why is this sister's responsibility? There were so many people entering the palace at once, it was impossible to check them one by one. Yerukio is good at hiding herself. Speaking of which, how many people in the palace have paid attention to her? She entered the palace under the guise of the Chang Xing Ho family. There were two palace concubines in Marquis Chang Xing's family at once, so naturally they would not reveal that Yerukio was not recommended by them. But who told the sisters to have a falling out today? Just now, the queen noticed it and sent someone to the concubine's palace to make some innuendo. Everyone in Yu's concubine's palace was complaining about their master, but it didn't take much effort to ask about some old things. Tao Ran was disappointed, but we managed to catch him by mistake. Mr. Chu has quite a lot of background. It's true that he has a lot of background. The emperor still lost his composure for her sake. No, the emperor usually defends me, but today Chiu Mei is in trouble, and he has no intention of standing up for me. I, a beloved concubine who was seriously injured for him, was disobeyed, but he is not as good as a little nobleman who made a mistake. The queen remembered that last month, a young talented girl had an affair with the imperial concubine. The emperor kicked her out of the palace without saying a word, which made her extremely dissatisfied with the imperial concubine. She felt that the imperial concubine was the one who instigated her and was so domineering, she was simply a scum. But if you think about it carefully, that matter really has nothing to do with the imperial concubine. Normally the two of them would argue with each other without noticing, but now, the queen felt that something was wrong in the past. The emperor's 500-year-old Ganodermalucidum was wasted. Not only is he not angry, but because he is a little nobleman, he just replenished it. The emperor even cut off the beauties of concubine Yu because of this one. The emperor was very angry when he left, but what does he have to do with today's affairs? The two of them talked to each other. Sister, I need someone to keep an eye on me in Chuxia Palace. Since I have chosen Chu Ziyagong to treat her, I will naturally keep an eye on her. Sister is always considerate. My sister is a good reminder. The queen called Bai Ling again. Didn't Mei Chiu lose 2 servants today? If the word goes on, Mei Chiu is not in good health, I'm afraid no one will take care of her. Call 2 more clever palace maids to take care of her. Yes. Tao Ran turned the cup in his hand, then smiled. Chu Siu Palace is a good place. I also have a cousin who wants to fly high. If she begs the queen, she might as well give her a favor. The queen laughed. Let me tell you, that nobleman today seemed to have taken the wrong medicine. He kowtowed to me and said kind words to me. He also gave Bai Ling a piece of jade. It turned out that he was just a white-eyed wolf again. Is that okay? Tao Ran helped Yu Tong laugh at himself. I have always been straightforward, but in the eyes of many people I have become vicious. Even my cousin misunderstood me in this way, she let out a long sigh. Sister also knows, how have I ever treated her badly? Sometimes, even your own family members may not have enemies who can see clearly. The queen took a sip of tea. The imperial concubine is indeed used to showing off her teeth and claws, and her temper is indeed unpleasant. But gee wrong, that idiot, who is she without the noble concubine to support her? If you eat inside and outside, you have to teach a lesson. If you look down on trivial matters, just throw them away. Only after you have suffered, can you be grateful. The two clinked glasses. Then Yerukiu offended both the queen and the noble concubine and went to Chuxia Palace. What could she gain from it? In the Chuxia Palace, most of the people were watching what was served. After all, it didn't take the queen and the concubine to give any indication, those people would deal with her severely to please the high-ranking masters. The same goes for Ji Rong. Since he was thrown from Yukon Palace to Chuxia Palace, there is no good harvest. One can imagine that the Chuxia Palace will be lively in the coming days. Not even halfway through the chess game, the queen's people came to report again. She was the palace maid who followed Yerukiu back. My Majesty, I know that there are indeed many things in Chumiran's room that violate the regulations. There are all kinds of things for food, even hair grease and powder, etc., have changed their appearance. The slave girl can recognize them at a glance. Those are not her identity can be used. The palace servants brought up a box of lipstick and a half-used snail. The queen breathed heavily. She didn't need to look at it. They were all tributes, the kind with a certain amount. According to palace regulations, these things must be used by concubines and above. As a fifth-grade noble, she is not qualified. Who else but the emperor can deliver these to her? Help her pack her luggage. She must stay at Chuxia Palace tonight. Yes. There were only two people left in the room again. Sister, let's make peace from now on. Taoran served the queen another cup of tea. Actually, there is something I have always wanted to say. Tell me. I have no intention of becoming queen. Therefore, you and I have never had any fundamental interest in each other. The queen's body leaned back, obviously not believing it. Speaking of which, I also have a question that I have been wanting to ask. Sister, please speak up. My sister and the emperor have always been in love. If nothing else is mentioned, I can tell that my sister is true to the emperor and she is just pretending to be so. As a woman, if you are in love, how can you not want to be your only wife? Do you think my sister still has admiration for the emperor now? This is what my sister is confused about. Why did my sister's feelings for the emperor fade overnight? Taoran had long expected that the queen would have such questions. Today, she was also very satisfied with the queen's fighting ability. Oh, now that she is here, she will naturally not let the emperor succeed easily again. As long as she and the empress can work closely together and keep civil servants and generals in their positions, the emperor's ambitions will be of no use. And if the emperor has any good ideas, why bother making a fuss in the harem? Therefore, as long as he joins forces with the queen, the emperor will let him jump. He can't go up to the sky even if his wings are broken. But although she successfully cooperated with the queen today, she still had to dispel her doubts first if she wanted to fully gain the queen's trust. She had it all figured out. Sister, I don't know how desperate I was last night, Taoran gasped, his eyes filled with tears. I was attacked by a sneak attack. I was convulsing in pain. I thought about the emperor's safety and spoke to warn him. But the emperor stayed away from me. He hid behind his guards and let them protect me, but he didn't let them save me. In just 1 second, Taoran shed tears. I was lying on the ground vomiting blood. When I felt like I couldn't do it anymore, I looked at the emperor who was hiding behind the guards and couldn't even see his face. I suddenly felt ridiculous and ridiculous. Does sister know? As long as the assassin at that time comes up to patch me up again, I will certain death. But your majesty, you don't care about me at all. Whether I die or not seems to have nothing to do with him. I was wrong. I always thought that the emperor really loved me, but the facts proved that it was just an illusion. In other words, I'm just a cover. Tao Ran wiped his tears. Look, I'm not as good as Chiu Gairan. Also, with a cover like me, who can notice Chiu Gairan like that? In fact, I envy my sister. At least you live better than Chiu Gairan. I am true, it won't be too painful to expose the lie, and it won't be too painful to wake up from the dream. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 228. The queen heard it. Did the imperial concubine feel betrayed because the emperor refused to save her and had another sweetheart? Why does it sound like there is a bit of hate out of love? Just because of this? Tao Ran shook his head and secretly said that the queen was indeed cautious. No, sister, have you ever thought about why I can't get pregnant even though I have the most favors? This. I have always taken good care of it and have been taking good care of it. But I understand my own body. I'm afraid I won't be able to get pregnant. You mean? Yes. Some things can only be understood. The queen sighed. She was also confused about this matter. The emperor spends the night in Yukon Palace at least 10 days a month. After so many years, there is no reason why the imperial concubine cannot be pregnant. After her aunt returned home today, she also brought a message to her, saying that the imperial doctor had determined that the imperial concubine's body was weak and she should not be able to conceive within 2 or 3 years. She was surprised at the time. Dr. Wu was the late emperor's most trusted pulse-breaking expert, so it was naturally impossible for him to make a wrong diagnosis. But, virtual. The imperial concubine practices martial arts, so she is in good health. I take various nourishing products every day, how can I feel weak? The people who checked the imperial concubine's pulse were all the emperor's most trusted doctors, so how could she not be able to detect the pulse and treat it poorly? Now, it all makes sense. For a moment, the queen looked at the imperial concubine with a trace of pity. Oh, the emperor, he is really nothing. Empress Chen couldn't help but think too much. What on earth was the emperor doing while pretending to favor the imperial concubine while ostracizing herself? So, without love and heirs, there is no point. What should I do if I want to be the queen? If sister doesn't believe it, I can swear it. Tao Ran raised his hand. By the gods, you Tongruo, will definitely covet the position of queen. If you get a pierced belly, you will die a good death. Tao Ran seemed to have suddenly come to his senses. Sister, you've spoken harshly. Tao Ran had been observing the queen's expression, and she probably knew that this step had been taken. My heart was relieved, and the discomfort in my chest came up again. Suddenly, half a mouthful of blood came out again. Bitter. He was so seriously injured that he hasn't been able to lie down and rest since he woke up after being tortured by the concubine today. The queen panicked. Seeing the imperial concubine vomiting blood with her own eyes made her feel more sympathetic to the imperial concubine's situation. Come on, call the doctor. No, I have an internal injury and it won't heal quickly. Tao Ran forgot what the doctor said. Just rest for a while. Speaking of this, I have to apologize to you, sister. Those few injections today. It's okay. Tao Ran was really tired and just wanted to end this torturous talk quickly. So sister, I think that instead of fighting, we should stay together. I don't want others to succeed in their evil schemes. I don't ask for much. As long as my family is safe, what about you? Tao Ran threw the chess piece back into the jar. What my sister said makes sense. The queen felt that she had to go back and think about it. After my sister goes back, she should also take a good look at the people around her. Whoever has been trying to sow discord between us over the years may be the breakthrough point. My sister is right. Sister, did my mother pass the notice to the palace? After being injured, Taoran sent a message to the general's mansion. Hand it over, I will ask someone to reply later. Mrs. Xian will come to the palace tomorrow to visit my sister. Thank you, sister. Sister, have a good rest. I won't disturb your rest, so I'll leave now. If necessary, just send someone to let you know. Sister, if you have a chance, why not talk to your family too? Those slick old guys from the old tribe are the real people. If used properly, it might have a huge impact on the mission. The queen left, and when she reached the door, she turned around again. Sister, the next time we meet. Just the same as usual. Let the emperor continue to think that they are still at war with each other. Take care, sister. As soon as the queen walked out of the inner hall, she saw Jirong waiting there. She deliberately asked the queen to come and sit with her, but the queen naturally refused. She could only follow the queen and flatter her, saying that she was afraid that the imperial concubine would get sick of her. She also secretly said that the imperial concubine usually caused trouble and had many enemies. She really didn't dare to live in Yukon Palace anymore. I hope in the future, I can share the worries of the queen. The queen only thought it was ridiculous and pitiful. My cousins. Do you sound like a human being when you say something like this? She was too lazy to talk nonsense with the fool. Okay, isn't it just about moving out? Just wait. The palace will give you news tomorrow. Jirong was overjoyed and kowtowed again. She couldn't help being happy, she was so clever. The queen and the imperial concubine have a grudge. Even if it is just to cause trouble for the imperial concubine, she will definitely promise herself that from now on, she will be a member of the empress's faction. She was so angry that she couldn't help but go to Yutong to show off. As a result, just as he was about to enter, he was locked out. Humph. You turned your back on me so quickly. I really saw you right. Don't worry about her. At this moment, Taoran was drinking Ganoderma lucidum soup in the room. Joke. 500 years later, how could she be willing to waste everything? What Yerukiu spilled was just soup base mixed with water. The good soup that had been stewed for several hours had long been hidden and kept warm by Ruyi. If she dares to make noise again, she will be dealt with according to the palace rules. She should be beaten and punished, but there is no need to give face. Taoran said this in a loud voice. When Jirong heard the words outside, he suddenly fell silent. Ruyi was a little panicked. Your Majesty, I'm going too far today. I won't be resented by the emperor, right? As long as I am still the emperor's favorite concubine, you will be fine. On the contrary, if they are prisoners, they will naturally have no way to survive. In the plot, Jixiang Ruyi died earlier than Yutong. This is a relationship where both prosper and suffer. If you don't fight, it will be a dead end. Don't be afraid, I will protect you anytime. This is also Yutong's wish. You have a life and death relationship with that man. Since there can only be one thing between them, do you still need to be afraid that he will hold a grudge? Okay, don't think too much, go prepare the meal and go to bed after eating. Taoran lay down. Although he was tired today, he had achieved great results. Once Yerukiu is captured, the emperor will not be far away from being completely exposed. While Taoran fell into a deep sleep here, Yerukiu was weeping in Chuxiu Palace. God knows what she went through just now. After being carried back, the queen's people went to call the imperial doctor and used the same trick they used against the imperial concubine today. After a few injections, she fainted and woke up immediately. Only then did she realize that there were two new faces beside her. He said he was someone just transferred by the queen. Facing these two strangers, she was not able to speak to the few people the emperor arranged around her until she was kicked out of the palace. She was brought to Chuxia Palace in such a daze. As soon as she appeared, she was startled by a burst of loud laughter. At first glance, I realized that there were so many people living in Chuxia Palace. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 229. In Chuxia Palace, 3 concubines who have fallen out of favor and many young masters who have not yet accepted their favor live. In the lonely waiting day after day, everyone was tempered to the point of being weird. At this moment, there was another person in the palace that was not spacious, and he was someone who had been favored by the emperor. For a moment, sourness filled the air. After hearing it again, it turned out that the person who came was someone who had just been punished. Wouldn't that be just a way to relieve his anger? So, the women and palace servants who had just finished dinner came out. They treated Yerukia like a monkey, saying that she was the only one who had offended both the queen and the noble concubine. At this time, Yerukia had a face like a pig's head and was shy to see people. Being judged, ridiculed, and ridiculed by so many people made her feel ashamed and a little broken. Her self-esteem was shattered again. She wants to be a queen. After this image is deeply rooted in people's hearts today, even if she takes the position in the future, won't it be made fun of? She hurriedly went to the house. But she can't get in. The room prepared for her was full of clutter. And the disgraced and ugly womanly concubine, who was the head of Chuxia Palace, actually expressed her need to be filial to her. She said she was in a hurry to move in. It was too late to open the warehouse to find things, and she couldn't find anyone to help with the packing. She could either wait for tomorrow or take care of it herself. Yerukia's maid went up to argue, but concubine Li slapped Yerukia in the face. It has been spread throughout the palace that Chiu Mei is not strict in her rule and her servants lack education. When I saw her today, it turned out to be true. Just like that, before she even did anything, she got a slap on the wrist. And her maid was directly punished. It was ridiculous that the onlookers all agreed, saying that she had no rules. A young talented person secretly told her that it was the rule in the palace to show filial piety. Ask her how many years she has been in the palace, but she doesn't even know this. How could she know? She is the emperor's person. She was placed in a separate palace as soon as she entered the palace. Who dared to offend her? Externally, her cousin was there to support her. She only had to be a transparent person, so why did she ever need to take care of it? With people under the roof, she had to show her filial piety obediently. The beautiful concubine smiled at her after getting 2 of her bracelets, and then took away a bottle from her, and then ordered people to help clean up. Sister is here for the first time, so the elders in the palace should also express their gratitude, the young talented man pointed out again. That's ridiculous. If you don't believe it, you will soon understand. As soon as she finished speaking, she saw a box she had left temporarily in the yard turned over. A box full of clothes fell to the floor. Why don't you help my sister pick it up? Li Bin scolded. Yes. A group of people started to help clean up. But is that tidying up? Yerukia watched as her clothes were picked up, thrown down, turned around, and stepped on again. In the end, she could only give 1 red envelope to 1 person, and then those people stopped. After finally cleaning and entering the house, she cried. Is this a place where people live? An hour ago, she had the huge palace to herself, with more than a dozen rooms at her disposal. She had her own kitchen and garden. Now what is this? She actually only has 1 suite. The room was not as big as her previous clean room, and the hall was not as big as the pavilion where she stayed in a daze. There is a musty smell in the house, there is dirt on the walls, there are ants on the floor, and I wonder if there are any cockroaches or bed bugs. How to welcome the emperor in a place like this? The emperor is here, will he stay? Does she really have to go 3 months without seeing the emperor? What about 3 months later? Will she go crazy after 3 months here? But these were not bad, and she soon discovered that there was nothing she wanted here. Want hot water? Burn it yourself. Want dinner? It's too late, you have to figure it out yourself. Her people went to the kitchen and saw that the fire in the stove was out and they would definitely not be able to cook. Tonight, they could only get some dry snacks. Just as Yerukia was about to cry, she was told by concubine Li, "My sister has brought too many people. Chuxia Palace is not a big place and cannot accommodate so many slaves. According to the rules, a beauty with the status of beauty can only bring 4 servants at most. I'm a palace man. My sister will delete it herself and report back later." Yerukia was so angry that she was shaking again. The queen gave her 2 people. Doesn't this mean that there are only 2 people around her who can and dare to use them? Concubine Li added, "Since my sister is grounded, let me start copying the scriptures tomorrow. This way, if the queen asks, I can explain it to you. Also, starting from tomorrow, a nanny will come over and tell my sister all the palace rules once again. My sister will study hard and copy the scriptures well." Yerukia was so sad. There is no good person in this palace. Even the emperor. Sure enough, people can change their minds. If he protects himself today, he will not have to be humiliated and suffer. He is the emperor, is there nothing he can do? He just doesn't do his best. What a pair of people for life, bah. It's all lies. Early the next morning, Yutong's grandmother and mother came. The 2 elders looked at Chaoran's injuries and taught her how to regulate her breath and heal her injuries. After cleaning up everyone, Chaoran asked the 2 elders to sit down. "There are many people in this palace who want to kill me," Chaoran said bluntly. "I can deal with ordinary personal vendettas, but someone is targeting the general's palace. Tell me something to my grandfather, our military power is being targeted." "Who is it?" Yutong's mother subconsciously asked. Chaoran just looked at the sky. The 2 elders all understood. There was silence for a moment. "Relinquish power?" Grandma said hesitantly. "Absolutely not. The cunning rabbit will be cooked by the lackeys. Without the sharp claws in the general's palace, it will be left to the flesh. And some people don't know what our family means at the border. Don't we ourselves also know it? Both my great-grandfather and grandfather tried to retreat. But every time, within 3 to 5 years, our family was called back again. Even if it was for the sake of the people at the border, our family had to hold on." Having said this, Chaoran felt a little stressed. She lives by herself, has enough food for 1 person, and has no worries for the whole family, no matter what. In previous missions, the most that could be done was to protect the client's family. This time it's better, the nation and the people are all concerned about the importance of integrity. When the burden is heavy, you have to be careful. Chaoran was very direct. She lowered her voice and said, "The late emperor chose the wrong person." There was a gasping sound. Who in the entire capital didn't know that the emperor loved the imperial concubine, but these words coming from the imperial concubine's mouth showed how serious the problem was. "I only have one request, that is, our family must be preserved. And to do this, I'm afraid there is only one feasible way." She dipped her finger in water and wrote 4 words on the table: "Change the chaos." No way, the 2 people were shocked when they saw the words clearly, thinking that this child was going to rebel against the family. "I misunderstood. That's not what I meant. What I meant was that if you choose wrongly, you can re-elect. Substitute. I want to be the queen." The queen mother. The 2 elders were speechless for a moment. It might be a good idea to rush down the emperor's throne. Tong-er. The two elders spoke at the same time. You are still young. But I almost died the night before. Listen to me and ask your brother or father to go to the border in person and convey everything I said to my grandfather. Also tell my grandfather that no matter how the emperor summons him, he will find an excuse not to return to Beijing. Even if something happens to me, our house will. Don't be impulsive and don't think about rescue. As long as our family is stable, as long as the foundation is there, and as long as the military power is there, nothing will be a problem. The heroine who wears fast is really a boss. Author, Ruo Shui 1111. Chapter 230. Tao Ran thought this task would be difficult. But after she obtained the initial intention to cooperate with the queen, she suddenly had an idea, and it seemed that all the problems were solved. Who said such a big task has to be handed over to myself alone? Since I have the power, I can naturally entrust it to others. It can be handed over to the queen, to the civil servants and generals, right? They are the ones who truly care about the country and the people, and they are the ones who should be most responsible for this country in this era. Don't they have more obligations? Yu Tong asked to be the queen mother, but he didn't say that he would be the only queen mother, right? She can be the queen mother together with the queen. It's not like it's never happened before in history. In this way, Yu Tong is not lonely, but can also make up for the regret of fighting with the queen in his previous life, right? So after Tao Ran had this awareness, he suddenly realized that the witch in the script might have miscalculated. This was not a difficult task, but perhaps the most comfortable one. She could just be a happy salted fish, watch the situation, and add fuel to the flames from time to time. If time is tight, she can be the catalyst. When sending the two elders away, she did not forget to inform Ji Rong. Yu Tong's mother was so angry that she trembled with rage. Was her niece such a thing? No wonder he didn't come over to say hello even though he knew she was coming. Mother Yu found her niece who was packing boxes and cages. The embarrassment on Ji Rong's face disappeared after just one breath. Do you really hate your cousin who has been protecting you so much? Mother Yu was furious. At this point, there was no need for Ji Rong to be polite anymore. Bala, he told all the resentments he had towards Yu Tong over the years. Yu's mother was quite disappointed with this white-eyed wolf. If you leave Yukon Palace and encounter difficulties again, don't expect me, the Yu family, to take care of you. Don't worry, aunt. Even if I crawl to the queen's side, I won't come to beg you. Okay. You are so severing, so I don't have to miss the old relationship. Yu's mother was so angry that she went directly to the Ji family after leaving the palace to draw a clear line with Ji Rong's lineage. When Tao Ran heard this conversation, he naturally did not forget to put his promise to break off with the Yu family into writing before telling Ji Rong to get out. Ji Rong quickly wrote a note and fingerprinted it. Soon, the queen's decree also arrived. Ji Rong was also dumbfounded when he heard that he belonged to Chu Ziyagong. Ji Rong is not Yerukiu. Unlike him who usually stays locked in his own palace and knows nothing about the conditions in other palaces. On the contrary, she has lofty ambitions. She knows everything in the palace where she is the best and where she is not. And the Chuxiu Palace can be said to be the worst place among the East and West palaces. How is this good? She immediately went to Cunning Palace with a generous gift. Bai Ling threw her things out and cursed, "Young master, did you think you were buying food at the vegetable market? You still have to pick and choose in this harem. It is a great grace for the queen to change places at your request. Either you go to Chuxiu Palace obediently, or you commit a crime of disobedience and disobey the decree, and you wait to be punished. Choose one of the two and it's up to you." Ji Rong could only go back to Yukon Palace to pack his things in despair. But Jixiang Ruyi led people to the left and right, asking to check her cage. "This belongs to Yukon Palace, stay here. This is our queen's dowry, keep it. These are the clothes made by our queen. I didn't even wear them once before the young master took them and kept them. This is what the young master took directly when the emperor rewarded our empress last time, so I have to keep it. The young master lent our queen 300 taels of silver last time. Is it time to pay it back? The left one is the same and the right one is the same. After the debt collection was completed, half of her cages were missing. PNG Rong thought it was appropriate and didn't blush at all. Ji Xiangruyi despises him, how shameless he is, how confident he is after becoming a leech. There really are all kinds of people in this world. Ji Rong just left. Tao Ran felt very happy. She was the only one in Yukon Palace, so it was too convenient for her to be a salted fish. Anyway, she was injured and could lie down confidently every day. When the emperor comes, he only needs to be perfunctory, since there is no need for her to sleep with him anyway. Those low-level concubines who used to hang out with her still come to pay their respects every day, and she also meets them every day and listens to their conversations. It's not that she was bored, mainly because through their conversation, she wanted to identify who would be the emperor's man. The method is simple. Those who constantly instigate the relationship between her and the queen, speak ill of the queen and the elders, and stir up trouble are the most suspicious. She soon became suspicious of Mr. Cao. So, she gave it a try. That day, Cao Gyron came the earliest. Ji Xiang happened to deliver a letter, saying it was from the old general. Tao Ran looked gloomy after reading the letter and felt sleepy all morning. At noon, the emperor came as expected. He also said he would stay for dinner. He first cared about her and said that she was in a bad mental state and did she need anything from him. Seeing that she didn't speak, the emperor searched around the room with various excuses. He probably couldn't find the letter, so he brought up the matter that he mentioned accidentally last time, that is, after she recovered, he would summon the old general back to the capital to meet her. Only then did Tao Ran take out the letter. She only exposed the existence of this letter to Cao Gyron. If it wasn't him who tipped off the news, who else could? Here she confirmed, and over there the queen also found the spy around her. The queen has more available people than she does, and naturally has more methods. The two of them had a tacit understanding, and they just pretended not to know anything, so as not to alert others, they kept those informants around. In addition, the queen's people in Chuxiu Palace also confirmed that the eunuch following Yerukiu was skilled in martial arts. There is no such person around Yu concubine, so it is clear where the masters around Xiumiran come from. With the queen's help, Tao Ran and the queen also recruited manpower through the harem, arranged by their respective families, and got some manpower and informants to place them throughout the palace. This arrangement revealed that the emperor's side was like an iron barrel, unable to penetrate at all. The more the queen doubted the emperor, the more doubts she found. By following the clues of several of the emperor's cronies, they soon discovered that the emperor was still cultivating people outside the palace. He already has his own bodyguards and the secret guards left to him by the late emperor, so what else does he need to do with manpower? The elders also secretly cheered up. Two of the ministers Kuming came from the old clan, and they also began to pay attention to the court, especially those promoted by the emperor. In order to stabilize the emperor, Tao Ran suppressed his nausea and still used his acting skills as usual. When he saw the emperor, he showed an affectionate expression and greeted him. The emperor was also acting, giving her things in different ways every day, still creating the illusion that she was the most beloved concubine. When he was in a good mood, Tao Ran would also have a scene with the queen. The two of them were in love with each other and occasionally pinched each other, which was quite interesting. Many days passed, and Tao Ran's internal injuries were basically healed. During this time, she became very interested in the breathing regulation method passed down from the ancestors of the Yu family. When you feel unwell, use your internal force to circulate in your body and your whole body will become relaxed. Amazing.